And hello, everybody, and welcome to the Eagle Report. It's your girl, Crispy, or as you might know me as Kristen Settinelli, and alongside me, I have the beautiful man with the beard, Adam.
Hello. It's true. I'm known as Adam, and I go by Adam.
Yeah, and I go by Kristen or Crispy, whatever you'd like to call me. But thank you so much for joining us. I know Game of Thrones is actually airing at the exact same time as our show, but I don't watch Game of Thrones, so that's why I'm hosting.
Of course you don't. Thanks for telling us again for the second time.
Yeah, I know. I like to bring it up, but that's okay. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and you can tweet us live at Eagle Report LTU. We're going to be having some amazing stuff on the show today. We're going to be having Megan Marie cutting welfare support for asylum seekers. They're going to be talking about the government's cuts to welfare support. We'll also be having ACLA Behind the Blow by Adam, which is quite the story. And we'll also be covering sports with Bilal and Ahmed, who's going to be doing a great job. Yeah.
We've also got University Professor Laurie Zion to come on and talk about his new book, The Weather Obsession, as well as the government's new plan to drug test people on welfare, and an entertainment package to finish us off with a bit of a musical touch.
Ooh, I'm so keen for that. I'm actually really excited. But first, we have Sheridan with the headlines. Sheridan, join us.
Thank you, Crispy. So, the father of a 3-year-old girl found dead with a gunshot wound at a home in Sydney's West last night has been charged with a firearm and AVO breach offence. Police were called to a home on Danny Road in Laylaw Park around 8 p.m. on Sunday, where they found the child with a fatal gunshot wound to her neck. A man inside the house was heard screaming, "She's dead, she shot herself." The mother and father are cooperating with police and a report is being prepared for the coroner. The father is expected to face court later today. Police have charged a man following an alleged stabbing in the central Victorian town of Broadford yesterday afternoon. The victim, a 33-year-old Broadford man, was involved in an altercation with 2 other men on a golf course just before 5 p.m. Police arrested a 31-year-old Clonbenine man at the scene. He appeared before the Shepparton Magistrates Court this morning. The federal government is cracking down on asylum seekers allegedly using a medical scam to get government-funded housing in Australia. Immigration Minister Peter Dutton confirmed that up to 70 people would have their welfare and medical treatment cut and housing removed by the end of September. It's alleged they're using a legal loophole to avoid returning to offshore detention once their medical treatment is completed. Human Services Minister Alan Tudge said given they are under an obligation to now return to Manus or Nauru Island, it's not unreasonable for the taxpayer to say that they're not going to fund to support them in Australia. Victorian Nationals MP Russell North is standing down from the party today after a long struggle with depression and gambling addiction. The member for Morwell has been on a mental health leave of absence since June, amid significant personal debt. Mr. North, 51, allegedly approached at least 4 Gippsland business people for a loan, and they are now owed a substantial amount of money. The debt is outstanding. Mr. North will finish his term in Parliament as an independent MP. The widow of gangland killer Carl Williams is hoping to contest Bill Shorten's seat at the next federal election. Roberta Williams has been chosen as the candidate for the Australian People's Party for Mr. Shorten's seat of Maribyrnong in Melbourne, but her political dream could be over before it's even begun because of her status as an undisclosed bankrupt. The federal court declared Miss Williams bankrupt over a $300,000 tax debt last year. Commonwealth Bank is facing an independent inquiry by a financial regulatory body after their latest money laundering scandal. The Australian Prudential Regulation Authority Chairman Wayne Burns said the inquiry followed ongoing damage to the bank's reputation and public standing. The inquiry would be run by an independent panel to be appointed by APRA, with a final report due by the end of the year. The report outlining organisational and cultural change needed would be made public, and the Commonwealth Bank would have to cover the cost of the inquiry. It is the first time APRA is launching an inquiry into a bank it is supervising. The Australian Competition and Consumer Commission is taking ticket reseller Viagogo to court for allegedly breaching Australian consumer law in their business. The ACCC is alleging that Viagogo engaged in misleading and deceptive conduct regarding ticket pricing by failing to disclose significant and unavoidable cost up front. 473 complaints were made about Viagogo to the ACCC this year alone. American broadcaster CBS has entered into a binding agreement to buy the 10 network. The company is launching CBS All Access, its own subscription video on demand service in Australia. CBS will refinance 10's existing debt to try and keep the network afloat. CBS CEO Leslie Moonves said Channel 10 is a prime broadcasting asset and is confident that they can grow the channel. Channel 10 was placed into voluntary administration in June. Nathan Buckley is staying on as the coach of Collingwood Football Club in a new 2-year deal announced today. Buckley's tenure at the club has been under intense scrutiny, with Collingwood failing to make the final season for the 4th year in a row. He said he was humbled by the club's decision, which occurred partly due to his positive relationship with the team. And now on to the weather. Lightly windy and potential rain on Monday with a top of 12, a max of 16 on Tuesday and slightly cloudy. Morning fog and early shower on Wednesday, reaching a top of 15. Thursday is mostly sunny with a max of 17, and Friday reaching 18 and sunny. This has been Sheridan Lee for the Eagle Report, Latrobe Live.
Thank you so much, Sheridan.
That's okay.
The weather looks quite nice today.
It's not bad today. It was pretty sunny when I walked to uni. Well,
Yeah.
half the way there.
And we have a beautiful view, actually, of the Agora in our lovely area.
Yeah, there's
Don't
even
we?
2 people filming us right now.
Yeah.
They better get our permission for that.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Definitely.
Well,
100%.
now we're going to be talking about a very controversial topic, and that is about the asylum seeker crackdown. But we are not going to be talking about it, me and Adam. We've got our lovely experts here in the studio. We've got Meg to my left.
Hello, good afternoon.
And we also have Marie to my right.
Hi.
So, tell us what's going on.
Well, sorry, just letting this up. Here we go. So basically the government have effectively decided to throw 100 Australian-based asylum seekers onto the street, giving them 3 weeks from today to find a place to live. And they are also cutting their income support. This information was discovered via leaked government documents and was first reported by The Age over the weekend. These asylum seekers were originally transferred to Australia for medical treatment.
Wow, that's pretty controversial. What led them to take the action?
Well, the government has decided to introduce a new visa known as the Final Departure Bridging E-Visa. And under the new conditions, asylum seekers will lose their income fortnightly of $200, which is a pretty large amount, as well as having a 3-week deadline to move out of their government-supported accommodation in the Melbourne and Sydney areas. And they will be responsible for finding their own money and accommodation costs, as well as living expenses such as food, clothing and transport. And obviously it's very expensive to live in Melbourne and Sydney area, so it's going to be a huge cut to them. And a spokesperson for Peter Dutton said that these asylum seekers were expected to return to Nauru or Manus Island when their medical treatment was completed. But however, they had been taken out of court injunctions and refused to return, so therefore they are staying in Australia. And Human Services Minister said that the crackdown was in line with the government's stance on immigration, so they're not really going to do anything about it, basically.
There's also a chance that some of the asylum seekers that are on Nauru or Manus Island will be relocating to the United States, as according to the New Daily. Trump administration officials are believed to be reviewing asylum seekers at these locations under the refugee swap deal struck with former President Barack Obama. 1,250 refugees were agreed to be settled in the US, but Donald Trump's decision to impose extreme vetting on new entrants to the country has cast doubt on the agreement.
So will the asylum seekers that are subjected to this new visa, are they going to be allowed to work in Australia?
Well, the visa will provide rights for asylum seekers to apply for jobs in Australia. However, it is unlikely that they will actually be employed, as their visa conditions have now forbidden them for paid work, as well as access to training programs such as TAFE. And basically those aged over 18 on the visa will not actually be allowed to study. And this could potentially mean that asylum seeker students, especially those in high school who have been in school, may be forced to quit before their 18th birthday. So basically just drop out of year 12, not go on to tertiary education, which is really heartbreaking.
Yeah, and that's really drastic, especially considering I know Latrobe's made up of a lot of international students, and it kind of makes Latrobe so different from
Definitely,
the rest.
definitely diverse.
Yeah. And what has the reaction been to this revelation from both Parliament and the public?
So it's been said to have surprised many in the immigration department who had no idea this was coming. And experts are predicting that it will revive the public debate about Australia's asylum seeker policies, in particular those that apply to those that attempt to arrive by boat. The move has been slammed by human rights advocates as shockingly cruel, and Greens leader Richard Di Natale has said the party is seeking advice on whether the bill can be overturned when the Senate returns in a week's time. And Labor MP Linda Burney said this policy is the cruelest one that she's ever seen. Daniel Webb, a lawyer from the Human Rights Law Centre, told the Sydney Morning Herald that the 3 weeks given by the government is nowhere near enough. So this is obviously the 3 weeks to find accommodation, and says that it is hard enough for people on full-time employment with good wages to find a rental accommodation in a short space of time. So it's obviously going to be a lot harder for these asylum seekers to find places to live in such a short space of time.
So is there anything that the public can do to help out at all?
Well, basically, and it's already been established, but there are support services such as the Asylum Seeker Resource Centre, which is the largest independent human rights organisation for refugees and people seeking asylum in Australia, and they are wonderful. They've been around for around 15 years, and they do a lot of work. It aims to aid asylum seekers within every aspect of their lives in Australia, whether it be housing support, which obviously is going to be a big deal now, counselling, English lessons, obviously for those who are unfortunately having to leave education, and so much more. And they're based in Melbourne, and they're always looking for volunteers. So if you're able to volunteer or donate, you can go onto their website at www.asrc.org.au. And aside from that, obviously Melbourne is an extremely active and political city. We've seen a lot of protests lately regarding marriage equality, the safe injecting rooms. So continue to write to your politicians, get around protests, create events, foundations to kind of support them, because obviously this is going to be a huge issue that we're not going to end, and we need to hear about it and keep on going with our support.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Meg. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Meg
Thanks,
and Marie.
guys.
Thank you for having us.
It's been an absolute pleasure, as always.
Yes.
But now, Adam, I'll let you take this one up. We've got something special prepared.
Current Latrobe Affairs is back with a special edition Behind the Blow segment where we take a deeper look at the Eagle Report and some of the drama that happens in there.
Oh, let's take a look.
The Eagle Report, the most acclaimed TV show on Upstart Live ever, possibly in the entire world. But behind this loving family is actually a domestic dispute, the likes of which the world has never seen. Lusty betrayal and sinful deceit. We'll find out here on Behind the Blow.
The Eagle Report? Just a bunch of assholes.
Hey, I'm Sheridan and I'm the political reporter here at the Eagle Report, Latrobe Live. And I've been having a really great semester so far, except I have to say the senior producer, Callum Misson, is absolutely awful. He seems to know everything about everyone's business here at Latrobe. That's why his beard's so big, it's full of secrets.
Hello, my name is Ahmed Abouid. I am the audio guy here at the Eagle Report, also the sports discussioner with Bilal Ali. I'm wearing a hat right now because that's how I roll. So what I do is just sit in the back, make sure everyone sounds good, and then about 20 minutes in, I switch and start talking sports. I've done that for 2 weeks now. With Bilal, he's all right. I'm a little better.
Hi, my name is Bilal Ali. I'm the sports guy. One of these sports guys. There's also Ahmed Abouid, who knows a bit about sport, but not as much as me. In this team, I feel like I'm the minority, just because I'm the only guy who watches football.
Hi, I'm Dan Kabas. I'm the vision switcher here. Honestly, I really don't care about this team. I mean, I don't even know their names. There's the two lanky ones. One looks like a girl, the other one dresses all weird. And then there's the ones that complain about politics, and then they think juicy is actually a good word to use, which is a weird descriptor. You know, I think there's 4 girls, I think. I don't even remember half of their names. I mean, in one of the shows, they told me, cut to Sheridan. I think I cut to that one that I think she calls herself Crispy or something. It's really weird. What is she, a chip or something? hate it here.
Hey, it's your girl Crispy. I'm one of the hosts here at Latrobe Live, or as people like to call it, the Eagle Report. I'm pretty chill like this most days. I mean, you know, presenter life, yeah?
So far, our investigation turned up nothing tragic about this seemingly happy family. But as we delved deeper into the depths, we found there were some issues behind the Eagle Report.
Hi, I'm Callan. I'm one of the lanky ones. You can guess which. And I was the resident weirdo until I met Calvin, who is the proper one. Most team I get on with, but when he gets into character, he doesn't come out. It started out as a joke, but as time went on, it's hard to tell when is Calvin and when it's not. Honestly, I don't think we've seen the real Calvin for days now.
A horse. A horse. My kingdom for a horse. But what do they mean of a king? What do they say of the king when the smut and the scum do not obey? Why do they ask me to do such things? Why do they torment me with such stupidity and inanity? Nothing here works. I am done, and with me, and great artists shall be lost.
Calvin's transformation into historical characters had taken a toll on the Eagle Report team. Next week we will find out what happened to Calvin and why.
Well,
We're back.
That's what happens behind the blow at the Eagle Report.
We'll be having a look at the second part of that just after our sports segment.
Oh, so
with,
exciting.
We've got Ahmed Abouid here with us and Bilal Ali.
Hello.
How are we, guys?
Thank
How are
you for
guys
joining
doing?
us.
We're here to talk some sport. Massive weekend in sport, action-packed all across all sports. We're going to start with the EPL. Bilal, you're the expert, so
thank you.
what game would you choose to hone in on over the weekend?
Well, I think there's only one game to really delve into, the Liverpool-Arsenal game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
Liverpool were outstanding, and Arsenal were like
Yeah.
pretty despicable.
Yeah, well, it was the 4-0 loss for
Yeah.
Arsenal. Throughout the whole game, would you say that it speaks more about Liverpool's offense or the poor defense that Liverpool seem to have? That Arsenal seem to have.
Yeah,
sorry.
that's a good question. I think it's a bit of both. Well, honestly, I thought the Liverpool attack was to be expected. Obviously, not to score 4 goals, but everyone knows that their attack is as lethal as there is out there. But Arsenal's defense was absolutely appalling. I mean, they looked like they were in 6s and 7s. They looked like they didn't really want to be there. Ozil and the other midfielders weren't tracking back at all. I mean, yeah, it was tragic. As an Arsenal fan, I would have been watching, and I might have turned it off halfway through. Well, actually, knowing me, I watched the whole game regardless. But it's really tragic because you mean you're watching, and people have paid thousands of pounds for season tickets, and they go there to an away game. It's about a 2-hour, 3-hour train ride, and they watch their team defend like that. It's absolutely ridiculous.
No effort, yeah, it's correct. As an Arsenal fan, I was real disappointed. They were my favourites going in. Probably won't win it anymore. Just staying with the EPL now, we moved to Man City. Sergio Aguero was in a little bit of hot water. What do you think of the situation pushing the official?
Well, originally there was a report by one of the police officers at the scene. Well, to set the scene for people, Raheem Sterling scored a 97th, 98th minute winner, and he went and celebrated with the fans. And then the police officer was trying to separate the players and the fans, and Sergio Aguero looked to get in between the officer and one of the fans, because the police officer was kind of like he was a bit rough in the way he was trying to bring him down, arrest him. I thought it was pretty good to see from Aguero. I mean, he was cleared. Eventually, was cleared of all charges because it came to light, and with the video footage, obviously from all angles, that the officer's claim was pretty invalid. He didn't really do anything to him. But it's really great to see that there's actually a connection between the players who people are seeing as these idols who are paid $300,000 pounds a week, some of them. and there's still a connection with the fans that are paying so much money to go see them. So I thought it was pretty good on Aguero's part.
Yeah, it was good to see. And now just moving away from the EPL, it wouldn't be a sports segment in August of 2017 or any month of 2017 for that fact, without talking about McGregor and Mayweather. It's done now. It's come and gone.
Yeah.
Just your thoughts on the fight?
I thought McGregor was pretty impressive. I thought he was. I mean, I knew he was going to lose. I think everyone with half a mind. Everyone with half a mind knew he was going to lose, but he was really impressive. One thing that kind of disappointed me when I watched the fight, the referee obviously did stop it. Like, I know the referee knows best. He stopped it because he saw that McGregor was in a bad way. He was about to get knocked out. Might have been really bad for his health. Well, not like the whole sport isn't bad for your health, but anyway. And then
that's a whole other discussion.
And he stopped the fight before he actually knocked him down. And McGregor himself said after the game, like let him knock me down, like let me hit the floor. And he thought he could have continued. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
But just you said that he lost. Did he really lose though? Making 100 million? I know there was a loser in that fight.
I think he looked pretty happy to me after the fight, but. Of course, he would have wanted to win, but I think like everyone else, he knew his chances were very slim. This guy's Mayweather's never lost a fight in his life. So.
Well, lasting 10 rounds with one of the greatest of all time.
And he actually interesting stat. He actually landed more punches than Manny Pacquiao did.
Over 30 more punches than Pacquiao. Yeah,
exactly.
So real good fight, and we'll see what happens with him in UFC. But now we're moving on to the AFL, probably the greatest sport in the world. For those watching, we're going to the game of the round.
Wow.
Round 23 was a little disappointing for us, but we were still witness to some of our special moments. Most of them coming in Friday nights. This game we had the Western Bulldogs take on the Hawks. 3 legends of the games were retiring, playing their last game. Here we see Hodge and Robert Murphy just embracing before the game. Early on, Robert Murphy, you can see he wanted it here with this spoil. Chases it down, somehow, some way finds the ball. Here we just see it. Gets it away to Picken and collects the assist there.
And Ahmed, I wanted to ask you, there was a fair bit said about Robert Murphy by, his name's completely... Sam Newman. Yeah, Sam Newman, the ever controversial Sam Newman on the footy show. He said that he didn't deserve to be given the spotlight considering he didn't play in last season's grand final. And the timing of that, obviously, with his last game this week. What did you make of that?
Rubbish, pretty much rubbish. He's one of the greats of the game. Definitely a great for the Western Bulldogs. He was out because of injuries last season. Couldn't. He still got the medal off Coach Beveridge, but he makes it's. I don't know. The footy show just trying to get some ratings, so they say some outlandish things. But you just got to move on from that. So fortunately, when we played his last game, unfortunately Josh Gibson wasn't able to. But we saw those three. Had a great game. All of them, the Hawks were able to pick up a win for Hodge and Gibson, and it's over for them. But great careers they had, and just something else over the weekend. Jeremy Howe, another fantastic grab. Seems like it's happening weekly now. Yeah,
he does seem like he does it every week. We're gonna have a look at it now. He gets
for
pretty
any other
high.
man. That's something amazing. But Jeremy Howe, you just say it's like he's done it one more time. I'd say right now Markadia.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No, there was actually a mark he took. Yeah, there was a mark he took earlier in the season. I believe it was also against Collingwood.
Melbourne, yeah.
Against Melbourne.
Yeah.
Well, he does play for Collingwood.
Yeah. Probably jumped
we're gonna have a look at it now.
Oh, there we go.
Look at it. Oh.
Yeah,
he's
special.
He's sat on his head.
Yeah. Both in similar positions. Yeah.
Yeah, but this is amazing. I mean, he climbs on him like he's a ladder.
Yeah.
And
he just goes up after he touches him.
Yeah, I think this one was better. But anyway,
debatable.
We're not the deciding factors.
Yeah. One of the two. It's Jeremy Howe versus Jeremy Howe at this point.
Yeah, so it is. It really is. He just outdoes himself every week.
Yeah, it'll be his. It'll probably be his for the next 5 years to come. That's it for AFL. We're moving on to the NBA now. Hasn't been a lot of news in the NBA. It's the off season, but we had a big trade. Kind of a trade. It's been vetoed, not vetoed. So the Cavaliers are asking for more. The Celtics don't really want to give more. Isaiah Thomas is injured. They're not sure if he's injured. Here we've got, which I think is ridiculous, Isaiah Thomas traded with Jay Crowder and Ante Zizic, traded for Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving's a world-class player. But you put him on the same level with Isaiah Thomas, right? And then they give away... No? Well, okay, probably a little better. And then they give away Jay Crowder. That's probably fair, right?
Yeah.
That's enough for the Cavaliers. Then they go and they add the 2018 first-round pick. That's a top 5, top 10 pick, certainty. Adam's here, master of conspiracy theories. You're probably going to have to fly him over. I don't know if we have the budget.
That's
Take you
true.
to Cleveland.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to find out what Kobe's doing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Kobe's still playing it.
And, we'll get Allen Iverson down at the 76ers.
He's
still there, right?
So he's still there.
Yeah.
He's still got Michael Jordan.
No, I
the
think
Bulls.
honestly, I'm a little known fact about me, but I'm a Boston Celtics fan.
Okay. Lovely.
Well, I have been since Rajon Rondo played
Yeah.
for them back in I don't even know when it was, but I don't know. It kind of does excite me a little bit, just because he's a big player, Kyrie Irving.
Yeah,
like
he's a big name.
yeah, like he I mean Isaiah Thomas, he's okay.
He's good.
Yeah,
He's an
he's
all-star.
okay, but
He's the second All-NBA player. But it's just that the Cavaliers, I think it's kind of a thing behind the scenes. The NBA are trying to have another fourth Golden State Warriors versus Cleveland NBA Finals. So they're just trying to somehow pad that team. So they've got now defense with Jay Crowder, a very capable Isaiah Thomas, and they've got a trade asset in the 2018 draft pick.
Yeah.
So if they trade that for someone, they're speaking about Melo. Melo's had a great offseason. So if they can add that, then I think it's something to do with the NBA just trying to get that fourth final.
Yeah, well, conspiracy theories galore over here,
That's
but
it, we've got a lot of.
yeah, I think it is a fairly good pickup for Boston.
Yeah.
It excites me.
Well,
as
it's a
a
big
fan.
name.
I might
It
even
draws
watch some
fans
games
in.
next
Yeah,
season.
there you go.
Like
For
with
that
Kyrie Irving.
$20 a month
Yeah.
NBA League TV.
Oh, and I've got ESPN and
Yeah,
whatnot.
you can use those.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's a pretty exciting signing. So what would you have offered if you were the Boston Celtics CEO?
If I were the Celtics, Isaiah Thomas and Kyrie Irving to me are pretty much level.
Okay.
But Kyrie's probably a bigger name and is a little younger.
How about commercial value?
Yeah, that's the thing. That's what I'm saying. Well, Boston are really looking. Well, they're looking for it, of course, but it's not like they're a Minnesota team that really need it. They're one of the biggest franchises in history.
Yeah, but they have dropped off severely.
A little bit, yeah.
I mean, no one
Isaiah,
even talks about them anymore.
not much. Well, last year they made the Eastern Conference Finals, but picking up Kyrie was great. Give away Jay Crowder and Isaiah Thomas, but then to give away that very crucial 2018 first round pick, it's something. I think that I'm just going back to it. NBA just a conspiracy theory. They're trying to get that fourth final, and should be good. I'm a Golden State Warriors fan, so they're probably unbeatable at this point. But I think that'll go to the fourth final.
It's interesting you say that. We have a salary cap in most of our competitions here in the AFL. What's the rule with the salary? Is there any sort of salary cap?
They
in
have
the
a
NBA?
salary cap. It
doesn't
it's
look like it.
Yeah, at all. It's about 100 million a team, but it's very lenient. So you can go probably 40 million over. So
so like a word count.
Yeah, it's
Like
like
a
that.
word
You got
count on
10%.
an assignment. Yeah.
Stephen Curry is the most paid at 40 million a year right now.
Mm.
So if you're giving him 40 million and then you give Kevin Durant 30 million, that's 70 million on two players. You have to fill out a 12-man roster. So they're probably like 30, 40 million over the limit because they got like real expensive owners, businessmen. So yeah, that's not really a factor right now. So I don't think that played into the trade at all. But yeah, they have a salary cap, but it's not really as strict as the AFL's one.
Yeah, it's hardly there. I just think, honestly, as a person who doesn't watch basketball other than when the finals are on, I think now I might actually watch some Boston games because, like, as a very, very loose Boston fan, a person that has some kind of vested interest in Boston.
You're happy Kyrie's there?
Yeah, I'm happy Kyrie's there. He's a good player, but he's a bigger name than he actually is a player. Like I know he hardly gets on the court just because he's injured so often.
Yeah.
But well, not as much as D Rose, but anyway.
Yeah, D Rose is nice. now
D-Rose
Cleveland's got D Rose. There's a lot of trades happening.
Yeah.
But
anyway.
that's the NBA for you. Trades every week, different signings every week. We can speak about this all day.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you know.
But we can't.
We've got
There's a time limit.
There's a time limit.
Yeah.
Next week, tune in.
That's
Unfortunately, for Game of Thrones, we've taken the ratings away from it. So.
I know.
Yeah, no one's watching the Game of
We're
Thrones.
I was gonna say, we are the Eagle Report, the highest rating Upstart Live show. So Game of Thrones, watch out.
Oh, but up next, thank you so much for
Thanks,
joining
guys.
us,
Thank
guys.
you very much.
Very passionate, love it.
Yeah.
We've got the next current Latrobe Affairs Behind the Blow segment on, so that's part 2, the critically acclaimed part 1. Enjoy.
I love the team. Everyone is fantastic. I love them all. And I'm not kidding. They're great.
I really don't want to be here. I regret signing up this so badly.
Welcome back to Behind the Blow. In the last episode, we found out that Calvin hasn't been himself lately, and the Eagle Report is suffering because of it. Let's take a deeper look into why this is.
You do not tell the Emperor what to do!
I just don't understand why they make me work with these peasants, these plebeians. They're just practically medieval. They don't recognize superiority in the workforce. They don't even bring me anything. They say things like freedom and slavery doesn't exist anymore. There's nothing wrong with slavery. It's just not the same as it was in the Empire, you know? They just don't have respect for their emperors. They're all a bunch of freedom-loving twats. Get out of my face! Just leave! Just...
My name is Callum Misson, and I'm the senior producer for the Eagle Report. You know, if we were one big family, I'd kind of be the dad of the group. You know, I'm stern, but also fair. Liam Connors, my associate producer, is more like the mum. She brings all the fairy bread to all the parties, drives us all to soccer, and gets into fights with other parents. There's a bit of unspoken sexual tension in the group, mainly between Kelvin and everyone, to which he uses the media hub to his own advantage to exploit these sexual encounters.
On the ancient stones that were passed down by our Lord Commander in the before times, it was written, "Thou shalt not commit adultery." However, the Eagle Report has committed adultery.
As you can see here, this is the new producer studio for the Media Hub. Here we switch the vision. This is where Daniel works. Here we have all the controls to move the camera around. This is where Liam and I work. And as you can see here, here's the new audio desk where, as it says, does audio. That's pretty cool. And over here we have a recording studio. It's soundproof, so you can't hear what's happening.
Do you mind?
I am Ioannidis, and I am the associate producer for the Eagle Report, and a presenter, and a host, and a special guest. And I run Current Latrobe Affairs, which is this thing right now. I mean, if there was one thing that could make it better, it's probably if we had Georgie and Jacob back. You know, I really wish they could be here with us, share it. Sorry. Can we cut the cameras? Okay, I'm good. So we didn't actually find out what happened to Calvin, or why, but we wish him all the best in the future. This has been Ioannidis, reporting live for Current Latrobe Affairs, in a special Behind the Blow segment. Stay tuned for next week.
And that was Behind the Blow, everybody. Thank you, Adam, for sharing that lovely input into the lives, the daily lives of the Eagle Report.
It's okay, we have a tragic story to tell. It felt like it should have been told.
Oh, gosh. Well, if you're watching, it's 1:34 on the dot. Or not really on the dot, but that's okay. You can tweet us live, Eagle Report LTU on Twitter, and we're also live on Facebook on the Upstart page. So thank you for tuning in. But more importantly, we're going to move on to our special guest who's sitting right next to me. It's your boy, Laurie Zion, who...
I always thought it was Zion. Is it Zion?
It is Zion.
Laurie Zion?
Yeah, it's fine. Call me whatever
Sorry,
you want.
Laurie.
Just adds more depth, you know.
Yeah, that's right. And so Laurie, a bit about Laurie. He's worked on the ABC, where he founded Triple J's Hottest 100 listener poll. He is also the professor at La Trobe University, a professor of journalism. He's also worked as a film reporter for The Age and The Australian, and wrote and researched the award-winning documentary The Sound of Oz, which is really great. And he's also just finished his new book, which he's going to be talking about today, The Weather Obsession. Laurie, tell us about your book. A little bit about your book. What's your book
Can
about?
I just say first?
Yes.
It's just great to be here. We've been looking forward to this for a long, long time. First time
Yeah.
I've been on the program while we're in the Upstart, La Trobe Live studio at the Media Hub, and it's just amazing. We can see people having lunch while we're doing this.
Yeah.
And people can see us online. So, sorry, what was the question about the book?
It is a great view, but yeah, tell us a bit about your book.
Yeah, well, I've always been a bit of a weather nerd, and especially when I was a young kid. And I in this phase of my life I'm in now, where I've seemed to have regressed to childhood to look at all the things that I couldn't figure out then. And I guess I was really interested to, as someone who's been a big consumer of weather information, to look at all the different changes that digital media has brought to the way we connect to weather. So that was the original idea for the book. And I guess one of the things that I really wanted to do was also say something a bit about why we, especially in Melbourne, why we're so obsessed with the weather, and what all these digital changes actually reveal when you can start looking at all the metrics of which websites we go on to and how much we contribute to social media stories. Social media generated stories on weather. So that was the genesis of it, and I just thought it would be fun to do something that completely different from what I've ever done before. A full-length book which connects to science, and I never got past year 10 in any science subject or year 9.
Don't worry.
So I really had to put myself on this enormous learning curve to be able to write about this at all. Even though I was looking at it from the point of view of media, I really had to understand in a way that I simply didn't, how the whole process of creating weather information based on analysing scientific data works. So I had great fun doing this, and I never really got off the learning curve all the way through. It was great fun.
Awesome.
Very nice. So you took some work off working at La Trobe to write this book. So when approximately did you start writing it?
Yeah, so I had the second half of last year as we call it outside studies program. It's actually study leave.
Okay.
And I applied for it, with the guarantee I'd get the draft of the book done by January, and I kind of kept to that. So in terms of my deal with La Trobe, everything was going great. What I didn't realise was how much work I'd have to do after the draft was in. So I had a frenzied summer where I didn't really do anything or go anywhere, especially in January when, it was really, this deadline was really hurting me. And I kept all the times with students and both undergrads and postgrads. I'd said, no, you've got to have it in. No, you can't have an extension. And then realising I had to deal with, the publishing company that I had to have it done. So it was a pretty intense time, and also going from being in the office every day to being back at home with one of my 2 Labradors so obsessed that she sat on my feet for the whole 6 months. And so now she's really cross because I'm back at work. No, that was Elka. Yeah. So, but well, good guess, Sheridan. So yeah, so it was a really intense experience. If I used the language that's common in politics now, I'd say it was a humbling experience. A humbling experience. It wasn't humbling at all. It was just hard work. So it was really, but it was good to get it out there in the end.
Yeah, and of course you used your experience in the industry as well to write the book. Where did your experience in the industry fit into the weather obsession?
Almost none of it did, unfortunately.
Damn.
And I tell you what, did. I think that I'm like a structure fanatic, so I've got to have everything structured before I can do a project. And the problem here was the structure was the hardest thing of all. And sometimes when you kind of obsess about something, I obsess about weather, but also structure, the structure obsession, that eventually when you get it right, suddenly, the clouds lift, clear away, weather analogies, puns, more puns coming. and I was actually able to write it down, but I guess what I was ending up trying to do was to think about how every chapter could connect to some element of change in how we look at the weather. And all of those connect to changes that we're experiencing in the media. And I guess that was the bit of knowledge I could hang on to, was looking at how much the media has changed in the last 25 years. So I kind of got the story right in my head before I could write. And then I still had to find out a lot of stuff as I went, but then it became a very different kind of exercise. It was assembling and rewriting and all those things, but not those lost days, which I'm sure everyone's experienced, when you're thinking, I can't do this, I'm not sure if it's going to work, I don't know if I'll be able to get it done, all that sort of stuff. So that was really the progression of what happened over the, my very, very monastic 6 months last year. And I felt great once I knew I was getting on the home stretch. Everything else was all right then.
Yeah, awesome.
And in your book, which I've actually been reading, it's really great, by the way.
Thanks, Sharon.
You describe yourself as a weather tragic.
Yeah.
So the big question is, why do you think people are so obsessed with the weather here in Australia, especially?
Yeah, I think the truth is people in general have always been obsessed with the weather. And the reason this question comes up is a symptom of what's happened in the last 50 to 100 years, where a lot of us can actually cocoon ourselves away from, the harshness of the weather and pretty much predict what we're going to be doing every day. Yeah, we might be interested in what to wear or those sorts of things, but we're not materially affected in the way and in comfort terms and in danger terms that we were as recently as 50 to 100 years ago. And I think too that one of the things, when I started to look at what psychologists and psychiatrists have done in terms of analysing why we want to know stuff about the weather, some really interesting sort of quite early work in this area. It's not an area that people have looked at all that extensively, but a big study in the US concluded that people who lived in climates where there was a lot of variability tended to be more interested in the weather than those that lived in very sort of settled climates. So Melbourne being the notorious for seasons in one day city, it's not surprising where you've got a lot of changeable weather. I wouldn't say we're necessarily the most obsessed in the world. The Brits are as well, and Britain's climate is really like an accelerated version of Melbourne, where you get a cycle of cold fronts, a couple of them a week, and so where you've got that, people will really become obsessed and really, really determined to check several times a day. But in saying that, I guess the other thing too is that, there's a sort of, there's been a change where forecasts now are a lot more accurate than they were 50 years ago. And that's meant, in a way, if we just get the forecast, we kind of can make, usually some kind of plan around it. But no matter how much we know about the weather, it can still turn up a lot of surprises. And the disaster that's unfolding now in Houston is a city with a metro area of 6.6 million, fourth biggest city in the US, where, this was predicted a few days ago that the hurricane Harvey would go onshore and then turn into this almost stationary rain depression, where parts of Texas have already had, something like a metre of rain, with more to go. Now, what's really interesting there is people who have predicted that the National Weather Service actually predicted that very accurately a few days out, but people just didn't believe it. And a lot of people who are trapped in Houston now in what's been called, a totally unprecedented, unforeseen weather event. I think it shows, just however sophisticated we are in the way we protect ourselves from the elements, that, nature's going to turn on some pretty big surprises.
Okay, well, so the way we've received weather reports has changed a lot over the years.
Absolutely.
It used to be through radio, newspaper, etc. So how do you think it's affected us getting it through social media, apps on your iPhone, etc.? It's so much easily accessible.
Yeah, I don't know how it's affected us, but I think that one of the real, and this is kind of where there's a media issue rolled into the way we get information. So you pick up your device. I've got an iPhone with me here, and the native app on there will, or when you go on Facebook, it comes from weather.com, which is actually a company in the US with no people on the ground in Australia at all. So it kind of looks like it is, because it'll tell me, Laurie, good morning. It's you're in Bundoora and this is what to expect today. But all these kind of globally networked media companies, which is what they are, who are producing these hyperlocal weather forecasts, are not actually necessarily drawing on the same things as the Bureau of Meteorology, and even the private Australian weather company Weather Zone, which uses primarily Bureau of Meteorology data. Now that's kind of interesting because it means that we are, I suppose, like with a lot of media, we're kind of passive consumers. So if you put your phone on and, you see the icon for sun or rain, and so a lot of that weather comes to us, we don't go to it, which of course reflects the broader pattern a lot with digital media, where instead of going to look up a particular topic, you'll turn on your Facebook feed and those algorithms will stream everything to you. So there's that. So it's affected us, I think, a bit like that. There's been a broader, though, in terms of the Bureau of Meteorology, more positive development that because the day 5 forecast now, if you look in the outlook period, so, the Friday or Saturday forecast now is more accurate than the next day forecast was 50 years ago. We're not seeing the Bureau of Meteorology satirised and made fun of. When I went and was looking through all these archives, even the 60s and 70s, the newspapers were constantly, doing cartoons about how hopeless the Bureau was. And because they predict, cool change, but the cool change wouldn't come, all that sort of stuff. So the quality of the information's a lot better. We engage with it almost as, it's like an ambient stream of media. But for those who really want to drill down and get, extensive weather info and who want to, every time there's a storm, like storm chasers, all these phenomena which are actually enabled by digital media, the extent to which all of those kind of trends are starting to provide a very information-rich environment that we can contribute to if we're nutty enough like me. That, I think, is also a real change. Like, I grew up completely obsessed with the weather as a kid, to the point where I wasn't very sociable anyway, but, it was quite a lonely obsession. My mum helped. She took me into the Bureau of Meteorology one day when I was 9, and, it's like the best day of my life up till then. Oh, wow. And they gave me a book called Climatic Averages Australia, and I memorised all the stats. And then, when I was a teenager, I got into rock music and started making friends at school for the first time. That was kind of, it turned out that was a preferable existence to the one I'd had. But if you're a young person now and you're obsessed with weather, there's so many different weather groups and communities online and so much information and so many people, who become storm chasers as teenagers. It's almost like, the 21st century of just joining a band where you've got, a little bit of basic equipment and off you go on the road. Unfortunately, these guys don't have real gigs. They just have dates with destiny as they chase storms around. But still, it's a social kind of thing that's been enabled, I guess, by the huge transformation in digital media.
Exactly.
Well, thank you very much, Laurie. We're going to have to cut you off there, unfortunately.
No, it's fine. I'm glad I lasted so long enough. I look forward to intruding on your program another time.
Yeah.
Welcome anytime.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Great
everyone.
Success for your book as well. Good
Thanks.
work.
The Weather Obsession, it's called. This is the point where traditionally the author just holds up their product, but I'm not going to do that.
So it's available now?
It's available now, and I'm speaking at the Writers' Festival on Saturday at 11:30, Acme 1, for anyone who Sunday morning has not yet turned into a committed part of your weekend where you've got something you got to do on. Come and check it out there.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, well, thank you very much,
Pleasure.
Laurie.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Sheridan,
everyone.
We've got you're on a welfare drug testing now.
Yeah, so we'll be, Sheridan, you're going to let us know what exactly is happening with Callan. And I'm pretty sure he's doing something when it comes to entertainment and musicals, I think.
So Callan has a little entertainment musical for us today, and it's like the musical but for news.
Yeah.
So let's
That's
take a look.
Let's have a look.
Hey stranger, let me tell you some news. I said, hey stranger, let me tell you some news. I said, hey stranger, let me tell you some news about some TV shows and some movies. I said, there's a solo film for Obi-Wan Kenobi. McGregor's not signed on, but he's hoping to be. Gremlins is coming back with real puppets and not special effects, 'cause that would suck. Karate Kid is back on YouTube Red without Mr. Miyagi, 'cause he is dead. Defenders was released by Marvel Netflix. It's pretty good, except for Iron Fist. Kilgrave is back for Jessica Jones too. There's a trailer for The Punisher that's new. Kung Skull Island's director is mad. The cinema sin said his movie was bad, but he's not the only one who's salty. Deadmau5 bought the sauce from Rick and Morty. Daniel Craig is back as James Bond, despite he's saying he'd rather die than do that again. Hey stranger, let me tell you some news. I said, hey stranger, let me tell you some news. I said, hey stranger, let me tell you some news about some TV shows and some movies. Joss Whedon is making Justice League light, more Wonder Woman and less Dark Knight. His feminist fans have disappeared as his wife says he's a hypocrite. Ex-Simpsons writer says its bosses are sexist, wouldn't let her join the team to chromosomes or X's. Comedian Jerry Lewis died across the pond, so did Bruce Forsyth. The project is getting a bonus Sunday time slot and a shiny new host, although none was lost. Liam hints that Oasis might come back. Noel says Oasis is never coming back. Hey stranger, let me tell you some news. I said, hey stranger, let me tell you some news. I said, hey stranger, let me tell you some news about some TV shows and some movies. I said, oh yeah, what's going on?
Thanks, Callan, for that. He's really a mysterious and beautiful creature.
Beautiful,
Indeed.
absolutely
Very
amazing.
entertaining. But now with the recent protests, as though in Charlottesville, Virginia, the world has seen a resurgence of the far-right groups and movements like Nazis. White supremacists have seemed to come out of the woodwork in recent years. With us in the studio is Kelvin Lonkarich. Kelvin? Lonkarich. That's the second time I've gotten it wrong, isn't it?
It's Slavic, it's fine.
Maybe it's on purpose.
Hi, Adam. Hi, Kristen.
Hey!
Yes, so Nazis. So first, let's do a wrap-up. What's happened since the Charlottesville riot?
Yeah.
Well, one of the leaders of the Unite the Right movement, who were the main group behind that, Christopher Cantwell, he received a warrant for his arrest by the police of Virginia. And he was seen in a video shot by himself to be crying about the actions, suddenly realizing that his actions have consequences, basically.
Incredible how that happens.
Exactly.
Oh,
Incredible.
jeez.
What a strange world.
I know. Donald Trump, as we all know, took several days to condemn Nazis. And, when he initially did, it was very sort of weak tea. It was, this has happened on many sides, but of course, and then...
He didn't really condemn
He didn't
Nazis,
really. And then later on, he went, oh, but there were violence on many sides. There were people, there was all those sorts of things that he says when, someone died. And people were
Yeah, I think
hurt.
it took 2 days or something for him to come out and say it.
He initially gave the many sides, then he took 2 days, then he reneged those comments again. Attorney General Jeff Sessions called it domestic terrorism. There's been a lot of stuff happening. One of the groups, the college's executive school board, received a list of demands, sort of trying to stop this, taking measures to boost African American enrollment, mandating all students take a class on white supremacy and slavery.
Oh, jeez.
And there's been executive orders designed to assess how hatred and discrimination against racial minorities, religious groups, and gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender individuals lead to those tragic events to prevent that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Wow. And what other groups involved in the Unite the Right movement?
So the main one is the alt-right.
Okay.
That's the one that's kind of the blanket term for them. And they're kind of the memesters. They remain online. So it's hard to understand how many there are, and that's sort of what Charlottesville was. It was a statement of saying we're here, to breed fear and
Hello.
be Nazis.
Hey. Yeah.
They have this sort of they call themselves the intellectuals, the natural conservatives, and
obviously.
the meme team. Yeah, and their main focus is on white identity and the preservation of Western civilization. Liberty, free speech, and the right to offend as well is a good one. It's a good slogan.
So yeah, the
If you're
group
a-
has clearly
wanna-
seen a rise.
They
Yeah.
definitely take it to heart.
They're very against political correctness, all that stuff. Another one is the Ku Klux Klan, which we all
course.
know. That's the oldest one, founded in 1860-ish, 65, by ex-Confederate officers.
and discriminating against Black Americans, Jews, immigrants, all that stuff.
Yeah.
The usual.
Yeah,
Usual.
many
Yeah,
chapters
the
across.
usual, basically.
Now, the big one is the neo-Nazis, and we've seen a resurgence of them. We know what the neo-Nazis are about. Hitler, Nazi Germany. We don't really need.
They're Nazis.
They're Nazis.
Yeah.
They're Nazis.
Watch Indiana Jones, you get the gist of it. And there's a lot of them. There's about, I want to say, total 3,000 to 5,000 in the United States. And that's sort of been risen from groups in Europe that have come up. One is called Golden Dawn, which is the Greek one, led by, you're going to be better at pronouncing this name than I am, but Nikolaos Mikaloliakos.
Oh.
That was butchered.
Jesus.
Where is it?
He's a Nazi. That's pretty much.
The Golden Dawn, I believe they have 17 seats in the Greek Parliament, and I think, I could be wrong about this, but 3 seats in the European Parliament or Senate, whatever they have, which is, pretty screwed up.
Yeah, it's things like that that sort of inspired this. It's the resurgence. You're seeing this in this current era.
It's more coming. Yeah.
It's Nikolaos Mikaloliakos.
Thank you.
Wow.
But it's also...
that's a weird Greek name as well, even for Greek.
It's also coming into Australia. We're seeing groups that are prominent that... there's one that's my favorite in terms of name that's called the Dingoes. And they're our alt-right. They have that sort of preservation of white identity against political correctness, that sort of whole shtick. But they're also the ones that are very much on the internet, don't come out of the woodwork, but that sort of thing. You hear about them, you see the memes, but that's it.
Yeah.
It's all about the memes these days.
Basically, yeah.
It's possibly the biggest one that has come forth in Australian politics is obviously Pauline Hanson and the revival of One Nation. Now, that did shock me definitely when that happened. I wasn't really expecting to see her again. I wasn't really alive when Pauline Hanson was a problem. But
yeah, that's right. I don't think anyone really saw that coming, and it just kind of came out of nowhere. But then again, Australian politics, what can you expect, really?
Yeah. And this whole movement sort of, it's Golden Dawn, but it's also originated in 2002 largely with, in France, who was recently led by Marine Le Pen. And it was called the Generation Ardentière.
Okay.
Ardentière, yeah. I'm going to go with that. I'm gonna stop butchering foreign words.
That's all right. We're not French, so we don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
So you can sort of see this movement, and that's where the movement is, and it seems like it's going to get worse. It definitely, the alt-right in America at least, are planning more things. They've said on camera that they're planning to beat Charlottesville, essentially.
Yeah.
Now, whether that's physically or, not literary.
They're planning to top it, is what they're saying.
Yeah.
And there's really look, I will just say, we at the Eagle Report do not condone violence towards anyone in the right wing, anyone in the alt-right, neo-Nazis, Ku Klux Klan. We do not condone violence.
That's true. We also don't condone littering of any form or shape.
That's right.
Now, the only way to really stop the alt-right is community and education. There are other groups called Life After Hate, which... I know. There is. It's called Life After Hate.
What?
What it is it's a group. It's a group held by former white supremacists, and they help bring people back into the fold.
I think I've heard enough of
this.
That's I think we're just gonna leave it there.
Me.
Yeah,
I love it.
Ultimately, you have to call out Nazis. You have to stop people being jerks, but respect and keep an open community.
It's a tricky thing,
That's
the whole
right.
freedom of speech thing.
Yeah.
But no Nazis. Yeah. Thank you,
Anyway.
Calvin,
Yeah,
for that.
thanks,
Thank you.
We'll surely hear more about that in the upcoming weeks.
yeah.
We've reached the end of the show, so thank you very much for tuning in.
Thank you so much.
We'll join us next week, 1 p.m. Monday, Eagle Report. Tweet us at Eagle Report LTU.
We'll see you there. Thank you so much for watching.
See ya.
Bye for now.